We have spent a lot of time on a story that I am not going to let up on, and that is the firing of Barb Hart, the teacher at the Blue Valley School District who was helping a special needs kindergartner who was having a meltdown a couple of weeks back. She physically removed the child from the situation in the hallway, brought that child into a classroom, and helped that child calm down. She got fired for putting her hands on the child. Despite the fact that the parents of the student said that Barb Hart did the right thing, they're glad that she did the right thing. And you had multiple school board members who voted to fire Barb Hart, who are admitting privately that they didn't want to fire her, but they did not want to go against the administration. And I think it's a chance to really look under the hood of how these school districts operate and what is going on behind the scenes. And no one knows that better than Dave Trabert with the Kansas Policy Institute, who is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We are always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Dave, good morning. It's great to have you here. I really think this is showing some of the underbelly and the worst of how some of these school districts operate. As you look under the hood in Blue Valley, what stands out to you the most when it comes to how these districts operate and how out of touch they are with parents and some regular folks in their communities?
Well, good morning, Pete. This is a really sad situation, what's going on there. First of all, for board members privately to admit they don't want to go against the administration, my God, that's why they got elected.
Yep.
Your job is to manage the administration. They work for the board. Too many board members are focused, like a lot of elected officials. My number one priority is to stay in office, and I don't want to upset the bureaucracy. You look at bureaucracies love policies. They get so tangled up. There's so many layers. I mean, you look at the payroll listing for the Blue Valley School District. There's the superintendent. Then you have several deputy superintendents. Then you have several assistant superintendents. And then below them, you have executive directors of everything under the sun. It's a bureaucracy designed to be a bureaucracy. It is not at all related to what should be the district's purpose of improving student outcomes. I mean, I'll give you an example. And Shawnee Mission is by no means an efficient district, but if Blue Valley had the same number of students per manager as Shawnee Mission, they'd be spending like $8 million less a year just on management personnel. They are so top heavy. It's crazy. And none of this is related to effectiveness. And you can look at that when you see automatic increases. Like here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 executive directors, all making the exact amount of. Previous year was 191,000. This year's almost 207,000. Exact 8% increases. That says bureaucracy. Everybody makes the same. We're not going to look at whether you did your job, how effectively you did your job. If you're in the role, you're going to get a lot of extra money. When you look at how they examine policy, especially with personnel, there has to be nuance. You look at, surely they have a policy, and I know they do, against discrimination. And yet, what action did they take a few years ago against the staff when they created a video that criticized white people, Christians, and Republicans? No, they defended that. Their 4-person communications department that cost them about $500,000 a year defended that video. Well, that's academic freedom.
Where's the 4-person communications department on this whole saga involving Barb Hart? You got a $500,000 comms department, and no one can get a hold of anybody there. I mean, what's the point of a communications department when the biggest, most, I guess you would say, front-facing crisis or issue they've had in a while, and you can't get a hold of anybody over there?
Well, in this case, when there's questions about what's going on, the communications department is the district's brick wall. Nothing shall penetrate. We protect everyone. Everyone knows. You just say, I defer you to the communications department, and their lips are sealed. But the other purpose of the communications department is a constant stream of look how good the adults are doing in this district. It's not, you don't need a communications department in a school district. And in fact, many school districts across the country and in Kansas don't have communications departments. You need to put out a press release. You need to speak to media. That's the superintendent's job. That's the CEO's job. But they have so much money that they don't spend in the classroom that they come up with these bureaucracies.
Dave Trabert's here with the Kansas Policy Institute on KCMO Talk Radio. You know, the sad part of this, I'm not here to rag on people making a lot of money. I want everyone to make as much money as possible. But I think about this story with Barb Hart, and here's a teacher who spent 25 years in the classroom, which is where you want your best and your brightest, because the end result, as you've talked about many times, Dave, is the results of the student. That's the point of the whole system, or supposedly the point of the whole system. These teachers are not encouraged to stay in the classroom if they want to get ahead for their families. And I find that to be sad. I find that to be disheartening. And now you have a teacher who did that for 25 years the right way. And this is the end result. I mean, everything about this story to me is what is wrong right now with our education system, not just in Blue Valley or Johnson County or Kansas, but around the country. What is your take on that?
You look at, you start connecting the dots with stories like this. You have the parent saying the teacher did everything we wanted her to do. You have common sense. You have a child in distress. You need to remove them from the situation, put them in a safe place. Gently, of course, everything was done as common sense would dictate. So why would they so rapidly run to judgment and say, oh, no, we have a policy, you have to go? That tells me there's a strong indication that there may have been something out for that teacher for some reason. Maybe she didn't toe the line. Maybe she spoke her mind. Maybe she stood up for students and the bureaucracy didn't like that. And now, we finally have her. She did something that we can point to a policy and say is wrong, and you're gone. And now you look at what are the school board members saying? Well, we didn't want to go against the administration. Again, that supports that we all know there's something fishy going on here, but it's more important that we protect ourselves, the adults, than a teacher or a child.
And most importantly, I know you guys have highlighted this in your reporting at the Sentinel. What we want to see is an improvement in student scores, and there has been a massive downward trend in student scores across the state, while the administration continues to get bloated and get major pay hikes. What is the answer to this, Dave, outside of us just highlighting it and talking about it and hopefully bringing awareness to it? What needs to happen? Is it just new school board members, or is it something statewide?
It's something, certainly new school board members would help, but the bureaucracy steps in and tries to make sure that they get compliant school board members who will do what they're told. So and it starts from the very top. The State School Board Association, in order to be accredited, they say you have to follow state laws. You have the state school board and the Department of Education being given audit reports that say school districts aren't following state laws. And what does the state school board say? Well, these laws don't really count. We don't consider that to be an applicable law. You have at the very top, the education administration is about the education administration. And the only way that is going to change is for the legislature to step in and say, okay, we're going to force you to enforce your policies of you got to follow laws. If you don't follow laws, then we will mandate that you will lose your accreditation. That gets school boards' attention because they don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost them any money, but they would be embarrassed. Like, I have to tell a parent we lost our accreditation because we refuse to follow a law. Well, I might get unelected, so I guess we better follow the law. We're going to have the legislature step up and do that. But again, we have a problem of legislators not wanting to run the risk of alienating the education bureaucracy, because then they might not get reelected. It all comes back down to, and it's almost like it's begging for term limits.
Yeah,
for everybody.
That's a great point. That is a really good point. Well, Dave, we appreciate the insight as always, and I'll tell you what, you got an administrator in Dodge City making $264,000 a year. That's like making, $500,000 in Johnson County, man. That is the only thing better than being an administrator, it seems like, is being a college football coach, where you get fired and get $50 million out the door. Man, this is a heck of a gig. So good stuff.
Yeah, I know. We just published this stuff. It's at kansasopengov.org, where you can go see these district payrolls. I mean, it's just, I'll give you one last example, parting fit. Money is supposed to be used to educate kids. Kansas City, Kansas has 35 custodians making more than $75,000. They have 6 pipe fitters, 3 plumbers, 2 electricians, all making over $100,000. What do teachers make? Not that much.
Yeah.
Where's your priorities, school board?
Yeah, that is so true, man. I mean, these teachers, boy, they're doing the real work that we want them to do, and they're getting the short end on this whole thing. Dave, great insight. Absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Pete.
You bet. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute. And Mark, I got that link in there. We'll share that on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page. You can see the numbers there, and the KCMO Talk Radio X account as well. It's really all about getting the money into the hands of the teachers. That's what I want, because they're the ones teaching the kids, and that's really what this is all about, right? Or supposed to be all about.